Hey, Dave Melinda here, Positive Polarity Podcast. Hope things are going awesome for you. I have again a guest that, oh my gosh, I learned so much from all the time. And so I'm honored to be hanging out with Mervyn from Vistage Worldwide. How are you today, Mervyn?
Doing well, Dave. How are you, my brother?
Oh my gosh, I am doing well. There's a storm coming in, so we might get some thunder and lightning. So we'll see how this thing works today. We'll give it a shot. But I'm honored. Thank you for hanging out with me. And we a lot of times on our show we talk about that intersection between personal growth and business growth. So that's kind of what I want to unpack with you. You're newer to Vistage, correct?
Correct.
Yeah,
Correct.
Explain for the listeners that might not know that term. I'm sure they'll know the other term that it used to be called. But what is Vistage right now, and how do you fit into their picture?
Sure. And just to give that little bit of history, since you brought that up, is Vistage here was formed in 1957 as TEC, the executive committee, right here in Milwaukee.
Wow.
So that's where the foundation was over 60 years ago, 1957. Probably around 3.5, 4 years ago, Vistage finally purchased the rights to TEC Wisconsin and Western Michigan. It had all the other TECs around the world. It already purchased from TEC here. So what we are is we're a CEO peer advisory group. So our group acts as a private advisory board for our members.
Okay.
So confidentiality is so key when we meet. Our members don't feel afraid to bring up just about anything, because they know that everything is 100% confidential. What's said at the meeting stays there at the meeting. We don't repeat it, not even to our spouses. It's that serious, because I don't even want to start that sort of thing, because where does it stop, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
You start sharing this, and then then you can't share that. So I use the tactic, and with the group, we don't share anything outside of the four walls that we're meeting at.
Absolutely. Is accountability into that too as well? I mean, do you guys, how does that fit in?
Big time. So that's really one of the things that make things happen in the group, is they know that they are going to be accountable to the group. If they bring in an issue or opportunity to the group, and we work through that issue with them, they're accountable to following up with the group to say, hey, this is what we did. Yeah. Last time we talked about this, I decided I was going to do A, B, C. I did A, B, and I didn't do C yet. Yeah. Well, okay, that's good. In fact, I'll be really vague, but we had a meeting on Friday, and from our last month's meeting, we had a gentleman said, hey, I'm going to get something done by this day. Sure enough, he reported. He made sure that he reported, yes, I got this done. I had that conversation yesterday.
Yeah, exactly.
To try to get that done. And it worked out swimmingly, just like the group thought. Yeah, it's a beautiful thing. That accountability is so key.
Well, and that's so funny, because for me personally, I'm a part-time sales manager for 4 different companies in addition to the coaching. And that's the biggest number one overwhelming theme throughout. And I have people that, I have one guy that is, Wednesdays at 2:30, I'm sitting across from the table, and I know that if I got there at 2:00, he'd be on his phone making his calls, right? But the cool part is they're getting done. I mean, that's that accountability. So obviously you'd like to, space that out, but we're not in the time management business necessarily here as much as we are in that accountability. So phase 1 is getting that done. So are you tough on the people, or are they tougher on each other, or tougher on themselves? How does that dynamic work in that group?
Yeah, it works actually both ways. Right now, because we're such a new group, I'm having to kind of be that heavy, but I'm more and more, I mention, hey, you guys are one another's private advisory board.
Yeah.
So you hold one another accountable, and they're starting to do that. And they're doing that very well. But yet I do the one-to-one coaching, and my job is to challenge them.
Sure.
Quite frankly, the people who don't stay around Vistage here's the thing. The number one reason why people leave Vistage is because they retire or sell their business. Those one A and one B.
Sure. Okay.
Number two, they're not challenged enough.
Wow. Oh my gosh. I've never
People
had
want to
that.
be
No one's ever said that to me, Mervyn.
I'm telling you, these are CEOs,
Yeah.
so driven, right?
Yeah.
In order to kind of get to that level
Yeah.
of a nice sized company, you have to be kind of driven. They want to be challenged. Now, it
Yeah.
doesn't always show up that way,
Right.
but at the end of the day, when they get that challenge, there's nothing like that they go, man, because they know that if they do what's required, that they're going to grow personally and their
Sure.
business is going to grow.
Wow.
So that challenge is so important. So I will never, ever, ever hold back on being tough on them,
Yeah.
challenging them to be the best that they can be so that their companies can be the best that they can be. And their families, right? Their family deserves the best husband, the best wives, the best mother and father
Right.
that they have to offer.
That's so cool. So I want to circle back to a little bit before this for you, because you started in the banking business, if I understand that correctly. I remember talking a little bit about that with you in the past. How in the world do you transfer from banking to entrepreneur? I mean, we have a lot of people that listen to our podcast and they're in that spot where they have a day job, but there's also this little dream in the back of their mind. Wouldn't it be awesome if, and then you fill in the blank for whatever that is for those people. And I like to ask anybody that's on the show that's made that transition. Some people, it's like a little 1-inch leap that they had to make, and other people, it was like a mile, canyon that they had to scale. So from your perspective, how did you go from banking to owning a company?
Yeah, so I'm going to take you back a little further than that to kind of build some context around.
We're going back to the Garden of Eden, like way back then.
We're not going to go that far.
Okay, all right, good.
I wasn't there. I wasn't there for that. So I want to go back to when I was a little boy, and I would sit at my dad's feet, and my dad was this frustrated entrepreneur. And so he would tell me about all of the dreams and all the business ideas that he would have.
Yeah.
And because the way our family structure was, he wanted my mom to be a stay-at-home mom, which meant that he had responsibility to be the sole breadwinner.
Sure.
And she was not going to have him going off and chasing entrepreneurial dreams in deference to the steady paycheck, right?
Okay,
so
sure.
that's just kind of how that was. But he would tell me all of his business ideas, and what he was doing unwittingly was building this entrepreneurship gene within me.
Okay.
And I say that in my family, I'm kind of the one who has it.
Okay.
And it's kind of rubbing off on my siblings, but I'm the one who really has that.
Sure.
So when I got into the world of banking, it was good. It was a great career. That entrepreneur bug kept calling my name. So I ultimately started my own commercial loan brokerage.
Okay.
Now, again, timing wasn't the greatest for a business like that, as we were reaching the Great Recession of 2008 and 9.
Oh my gosh, when did you start that in like 06?
I started in 2004.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. Good. So you had a couple years at least.
Had a couple years of runway to get things moving, and all of a sudden the bottom just completely dropped out.
Wow.
But that dream never died.
Sure.
I mean, it never died. I closed that business down and went to work for the Waukesha County Business Alliance, where you and I connected.
Yep.
And that dream never died. Now I had a little bit of autonomy there as I grew and gained trust within the Business Alliance.
Sure.
But there's nothing like being your own business owner.
Sure.
And calling that shot. And if you make it or if you don't make it, it's all on your shoulders.
Yeah.
That's exhilarating.
Yeah.
And if you have that within you, then nothing else is going to do. I don't care how great the situation is. It's not going to be sufficient. And that's what it was for me.
Sure.
I loved what I did there. I loved my fellow coworkers, and gosh, greatest people, all the members there, greatest people in the world. Yet there was something that was calling my name, and I had to answer that call.
Yeah.
And so really, it wasn't a big mind mindset shift for me.
Okay.
I would say for a lot of people, it is a big mindset shift. If you're going to
Yeah.
move from being an employee to being an entrepreneur, if you don't already have that gene,
Yeah.
that DNA, it's going to take a huge mindset shift because things are
Sure.
different.
Well, and it seems like to me, at least, when I first met you at the Waukesha County Business Alliance, and then as I got to know you, I mean, it almost felt like you treated that as your own business anyway, whether it was your business development within the business, you know. So I see a lot of people that kind of are acting as a business owner anyway. They just may not have the title, they might not have the, you know, all the things behind their name. So, you know, I think it was pretty evident, at least, you know, from an outsider's perspective, that that was the path you were on. So I'm assuming that you, like you said, you knew that for a long time, that that was going to be the eventual outcome. How did Vistage kind of end up being the landing point for you in that journey?
Yeah. So as I, went in my journey with the Business Alliance, I got a great opportunity to be able to kind of live out my passion, like you said,
Yeah.
even there. So as I was working, I became one of the leaders of a CEO roundtable group that we had.
Okay.
I was able to revamp and write the curriculum for Leadership Waukesha County, and
Yep.
seeing all of that leadership development and seeing
Yeah.
people grow was phenomenal. And I wanted to take it to the next level. I mean, as I got older, and I'm thinking, gosh, I'm at the end kind of my career here. What do I want to do in the next 20 years, sort of thing.
Sure.
I wanted to make a greater impact.
Okay.
I want to have a greater impact on more people. And so Vistage came into play because a buddy of mine, a really good friend of mine, is a chair.
Okay.
And he and I sat down for coffee one day. He asked me some questions about, gosh, what would you do in this situation? And I gave him what I would do, and he said, "Oh, I'm going to try that." And he did. And he came back, and we had coffee about 3 weeks later. He said, "Hey, thanks for that advice. It worked perfectly. What would you do in this situation?" And I gave him,
Wait a minute here. Time out. Are you doing free consulting there, Mervyn?
Yeah, I'm doing this free consulting. And he said, "You'd be a great chair." And I go, no way, man. I'm not doing that. And he goes, "No, man, really, you need to consider this."
Yeah.
And so he said, "Would you be open?" I said, "Yeah, I'd be open." So he connected me with the folks in headquarters. Yeah, and we went through this process. Oh my gosh, the process was kind of crazy. I look back at my archives. It was about a 1.5-year process for me to finally make that decision
Sure.
of, yeah, this is what I want to do. I think I'm going to make that leap.
Wow.
And why Vistage? People can do something like this on their own, but why would you want to?
Yeah.
And this is why I say that. Yeah, I really could. I could start a group of CEOs. I can do that.
Sure.
The resources, the knowledge base, the networks that they have.
Yeah.
25,000 CEOs in 20 different countries.
Wow.
Where am I going to get that? Where am I going to tap into that network for my members? Right?
Exactly. Yep.
And all this knowledge base that's in the website.
Sure.
No way. No way. There's no way I would want to do this outside of Vistage, because I would be doing my members a disservice, because I would not have all of the resources that they would need to be able to tap into.
So you bring up a good point. If I'm on your roundtable and I have access to all those CEOs worldwide in some format, some way, shape, or form. Okay. Wow.
Yeah. So one of my members said to me, he says, just tapping into the network alone is worth the monthly membership.
Sure.
And that was a phenomenal testimony to me for him to say that. Yeah. And this is why he connected with someone out in California. So there's no competition going on there.
Sure.
And this person has been kind of a mentor to him.
Okay.
To be able to walk him through some of the questions that he had.
Sure.
For his business. Phenomenal.
Yeah.
Phenomenal.
That's awesome. Back in the day when I was involved in the building community, you know, they have what they call builder 20 clubs. So there were 20
Mhm.
builders that, you know, from 20 non-competing markets, similar
Yep.
design and style. And I've heard from countless builders over the years that that was by far, that was the best offering that the local builders association offered, was that ability to bounce things off of people. And it was interesting in reading through your LinkedIn profile, two things that you said really kind of align well with you is your love for people, and then the passion to see other people achieve their goals. And so, you know, so how do you stand, and I run into this same issue, so I'm asking because I don't know the answer. Sometimes it's hard for me to stand on the sidelines and watch people as a coach. You know, I mean, I gotta believe that there's times that some of these ex-NFL players are watching and they're like, crap, I wish I was in there, right? And
Yeah.
they're standing on the sidelines, so to speak. They're doing their job. They're providing the service that they need, like you and I do. Do you struggle with like, man, I wish I was in there right now, blocking, tackling, passing, calling plays, whatever? Does that passion ever hit you when you're watching a company build, explode, expand, you know?
Sometimes, but you know what? I'm also in it
Yeah. Okay.
because their success is mine.
Yeah.
And so, and I'm in it. And as we grow our group and our group gets bigger and better, I'm in it. I'm in the
Yeah.
fray right now too. So I don't feel that a lot. Sometimes I get really excited when I hear, oh man, as a result of our conversation that we had over the past month or two, this is what's happening.
Yeah.
I get over the moon excited about
Yeah.
that.
That's
Yeah,
right.
you know,
Yeah.
it, it's not even living vicariously through them.
Sure. Sure.
I'm in the game.
Sure.
I'm in the game with them.
Yeah.
I'm playing a different role, but I'm in
Right.
the game with them.
Yeah.
So I look at it from that standpoint, and from when I put on that set of lenses, wow, there's nothing better
That's
because
cool.
when this group is full, I'm going to have 16 amazing leaders, and there's 16 companies that I've got my hands in,
Sure.
and I'm affecting the top of the organizational structure.
That's so cool. So when they come in with their leadership style, or they come in with the way that they lead, do you guys invest time and energy on, you know, because you talked about the Waukesha, or the leadership Waukesha County piece. So you were, you know, really involved in forming leaders. Those were probably more at the beginning of their career, or more at the beginning of their leadership path, so to speak. You know, they're a little more moldable, if that's a word. What do you do with somebody that walks in, and I won't mention an age, but you know, they're up there in years and they've done it this way all the time, and what the heck do you know? And you know, do you get
Yeah.
that? Or, you know, and again, it's not putting your members on the spot as much as I'm trying to understand the mentality that you run into from a leader's perspective. Because I see a lot of people are open, but to leadership training, skills, you know, improvement. But then I also see a lot of people that, you know, they put their stake in the ground and there's no way
Yep.
you're getting me off dead center. And I'm just curious if you kind of see a lot of both of those out in the world as you do your travels.
Yeah, I see a lot of that. However, those folks don't get into my group.
Yeah.
Um, that is by far that's a group killer.
Yeah.
That person that can't learn anything from anyone else, I know it all. They don't get into. They don't get in. They typically do not get into a Vistage group. If they do make it past, by some for whatever reason, they either don't last or they can kill a group.
Yeah.
Won't
Or
do it.
they're there to teach the rest of them. I mean, I got to believe there's somebody that needs that platform to, you know, you got to do it my way, right? I mean,
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah. No. And our model also sets up well to combat that, particularly in group setups. Our model combats that. We don't. There's no. Hey, I have a question. Here's the answer, and here's how you
Yeah.
do it. There is not that.
Gotcha.
So it's completely anti that.
Yeah.
So we really have to dig and understand what the real issue is, because oftentimes the question that an individual asks at the beginning isn't the question that they really meant to ask.
Sure.
So how do I do this? And
Yeah.
then when we start uncovering, the real answer is, okay, do you
Yep.
still want to ask that question? No, I guess it really is more over here. Okay.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
it prevents that giving suggestions, because we don't want to give suggestions to the wrong answer, to the wrong question.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, my wife is really good at telling me the problem's never the problem, right? So, so I'm learning that over the time here as I grow and as I get
I
better.
like
But,
that. That's truth.
I mean, it's so like it just because there's something going on the surface, And I spend a lot of time in my coaching. I have visioned the iceberg, and you see the little chunk above the water, which is where
Mhm.
most people spend their time. And I
Yep.
want to really understand what's going on underneath.
Yeah.
But it takes,
Look at my language, man.
oh my gosh, but it takes trust. It takes
Yep.
time.
Yep.
So I'm going to throw a curveball at you because I think we're both high D's and a disc, so we want results. We want to get it done. It's like boom, 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 right? So
Mhm.
as you're trying to unpack that with somebody, I know for me, I have to bite my tongue at times because I have to let somebody kind of unpack that on their own. I have to let them discover it on their own. I can
Yeah.
convince
Their
them
journey.
of it, but they got to discover it on their own. Do you struggle with that piece in your group, or are you sitting on your hands at times? Are you,
Man, I'm
what?
biting the inside of my cheeks
Yeah,
sometimes.
okay, good. I'm
So
glad it's not just me then. Okay, good.
because my role as a chair is not to be giving those opinions
Yeah,
and not to be giving those suggestions.
that's
It's
so
the
hard.
group.
Yeah,
Pushing it back to the group. Push it back to the group. And yes, it is hard because I'm a person of information. I'm a guy who looks and has information on stuff. I have answers to things.
yeah,
My job is not to give those answers. My job is
yeah,
to point to the group. What does the group think about that?
yeah,
This is your private advisory board. And it's especially tough in one-to-one because sometimes they'll want to use me as the person to process the issue or opportunity out with. And I have to back off and say, what do you think the group would say? Well, I don't
so
know. Well, let's bring it.
wow, that's really a
Yeah.
good question because I was going to ask that because and you partially answered it, but I want to unpack it a little more. So in the group, I was assuming that you're kind of like the facilitator of that, right?
I
But
am.
then in the one-on-one, I was thinking because in your LinkedIn profile, and we've talked a lot together about coaching, where you're sitting there being able to impart that wisdom, so to speak, to that individual. Even at that coaching, that one-on-one, you're still kind of
Yeah.
taking, oh my gosh, that's got
My
to be
job is
tough.
to uncover. My job is to uncover their
Okay.
blind spots.
Okay.
Right? And you
Yep.
and I talked about blind spots a lot in the past,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
So, and we all have them. My
Yep.
job is to uncover those for them
Wow.
and to help them to see that, but not to be that answer person.
Sure.
I never want to be the person that they're relying on for answers.
Wow.
They need to come. Number one, it's their journey and their self-discovery. Number
Yeah.
two, they have a group for a reason. The
Okay.
reason why Vistage is so effective is because we have this non-competing industries, diverse thinking, diverse models, diverse in every area you can imagine.
Sure.
And they're getting those differing and disparate perspectives. So they're getting these perspectives from other trusted people that there's no way in 100 years they would ever look at it through that set
Sure.
of lenses.
Sure.
So that's why it's so effective.
Oh,
And
that's so cool.
I'm just one person.
Yeah.
But if they have 12 to 16 others,
Yeah. Yep.
how do you beat that?
Wow. Yeah, that's really
So
cool.
yeah, so I'm not imparting my wisdom.
Okay.
My job is to call them out on delicately saying nonsense.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
and challenge them in those ways, and then to direct everything back to the ultimate authority within Vistage, and that's the group.
Wow.
And that's because that's the hierarchy.
Sure.
It's what's best for the group, number one.
Okay.
Number two, what's best for the member. Number three, what's best for me as a chair.
Sure. Wow. Well, hats off to you for being able to do that because, I mean, it's kind of like servant leadership, where the leader's usually at the top. We invert that so he or she is at the bottom, supporting their team, supporting their group, and ultimately supporting their customers. So,
That's right.
I love that analogy. So, this whole time we've been kind of focusing on leadership and leadership development. Where did your passion come for that leadership development?
Well, it really was born out of understanding that I didn't know everything that I needed to know and that I had some deficiencies, right? So when I had my commercial loan brokerage business, I realized right away that people did things because not because I had authority to tell them to do things. They only did things for me if I inspired them to do so,
Okay.
because they didn't work for me. They weren't my employees. We were all working. So in order to get people from different companies to do things for me, I realized that, man, I need to learn a few things. And so I started reading some books. And that's where it was kind of born. And I was like, man, this is amazing. I can read someone's life story and all the mistakes that they made. I can do that in 3 to 5 hours, and I
Yeah.
can get all of that wisdom, and I can apply those different things to my own journey and see them work.
Sure.
And so that's really where it was born. And
Okay.
and so I imparted that into my leadership development personally, and then for everyone that I had the opportunity to be a mentor and coach for as well. And as through Leadership Waukesha County, we read books, and we read books that matter and that are going to help to develop us as people and employees.
Sure. So
Yeah.
just out of curiosity, what book are you reading right now?
I am reading The Power of Peers. It's in my backpack.
Okay.
Power of Peers is a book written by a member of Vistage and the former CEO of Vistage.
Okay.
Talk about the power of peer groups, and I've read the book once through now, and I'm back at it again because it's so important, and that helps to ground me in my role as a chair. And the power is not in me; the power is in the group.
Sure.
The power is in that peer group.
Yeah.
And that is so important. So I'm constantly needing to make sure that I'm not overstepping my authority and my role as the chair. Because
Sure.
once I get into that answer guy, you can't. How do you put the toothpaste back into that tube?
Right. Exactly.
Right? And now, well, you did it last time. How do you not do it this time?
Yeah. And the first time you're wrong, you're gonna know you were wrong because they're coming at you hot and heavy. Like, I told you that wasn't gonna work.
There it is. It's not my. So I never want to move into that sort of role where I'm telling them what to do and the right thing to do. Nope.
Yeah.
Point to the group.
That's awesome.
Point to the group. This is what would the group say?
Yeah. So we are, we were working together on our Sales Advantage Roundtable, which is a, sales peer-to-peer type group. And it was interesting when I first started to work with that concept. One of the things that I learned about that, which, just reiterates what you're saying, is like the one room schoolhouse back in the day, when I went to school in the 1800s,
right.
There was like a one room schoolhouse, and they're going back to that research and realizing how effective it was. And because I was thinking about that, and I'm like, so if I'm a 2-year CEO and I am in a group with a 22-year CEO, oh my gosh, that's going to be,
phenomenal,
right? Mind blowing, right? So, but then I realized in that one room schoolhouse that actually the best things that were happening was, number one, they found out that younger kids learned better from older kids as opposed to the teacher. So you're already, kind of at not a disadvantage, but they're already going to learn more from the group than they are from you, just purely on the research there.
Yep.
And the cool part was on the reverse, then I thought, well, what the heck is a 22-year CEO what could he learn from a 2-year CEO, so to speak? And then they found the research reverse was that when the older children were able to teach the younger children the topic, they realized that they actually mastered that, information. So that one room schoolhouse actually was helping both ways, which is spot on to what you're doing now. So do you have that do you see that where it's I don't know, right words, wrong words, a novice versus somebody that's experienced in the CEO world?
I do. I have CEOs ranging from, oh gosh, 6, 7 months of experience as a CEO to
Nice.
over 20 years experience
Wow.
as a CEO. And I will tell you that the CEOs that have greater experience learn just as much from the newer CEOs
Yeah.
as they do as they teach.
What a
Because
fresh thing.
because it's a beautiful thing because
Yeah.
they get a chance to again get perspectives that they wouldn't ordinarily get.
Yeah.
So whether it's from a novice or whatever, these people still have life experience, they have business experience,
Yeah.
and the issues, opportunities that are coming up have probably been seen by someone in some form or fashion before.
Sure.
So yeah,
Wow.
and not only that, it's that kind of experience, but also experience in size of company. So whether they're $1.5 million company or $100 million company,
Okay.
hundred
Gotcha.
million dollar company can learn something from the $1.5 million company.
Sure. Sure. Wow.
It works both ways.
That's so cool. And how do you build the trust in that group? How does that work? Because I know, I mean, from the sales advantage roundtables that I've done, leadership development courses, anything where there's a group of people, everyone walks in and they're like this, right? They're just so everyone's out to get me, and I gotta protect myself at all costs. How do you break that wall down? How do you get that, person to open up? Or do you? And maybe they
Yeah.
just come in guarded on a consistent basis.
I believe the leader sets the tone,
Okay.
and as a leader of the group, it's my job to set the tone of being vulnerable.
Okay.
So early on, when we first started meeting, this COVID-19 is a horrible thing, and I wish it would go away
Yeah.
like yesterday.
Yeah. Right.
But one of the things that happened with our group is that we bonded so quickly because we started meeting virtually on a
Mm.
weekly basis
Okay.
back in the end of March,
Gotcha.
and we haven't stopped.
Okay.
So I set the tone for being vulnerable. I share stuff, good, bad, or ugly,
Yep.
in my life, personally,
Sure.
professionally, and that gives them permission to be vulnerable as well. And
Awesome.
when leaders can be vulnerable, that builds trust so much.
Yeah.
It just exponentially quicker. So that's what
Yeah.
we have. I
That's
mean, I've
great.
been told that by folks that have observed my group that, man, these guys are bonding like they've been together for 10 years.
Oh,
And
that's
they've been
great.
together for 4 months.
Yeah. Wow.
Um,
That's really
but
good.
yeah, it's phenomenal. So and the other thing is that we set out some operating agreement rules, right? So this is how we govern ourselves within the group, and we
Okay.
have a list of 12 or so, 11 or 12 operating agreements that when we're in group or one-to-one, we live by these,
Sure.
and everyone has the ability to challenge someone that's violating an operating agreement.
Mm. Good.
So if you're not living by what we say that
Yeah.
we want to live by,
Yep.
expect to be challenged by it. Just
Wow.
be called out on it.
Yep.
If you're having a bad day, okay, that's fantastic. Okay,
Yep.
you got your free pass for the day.
Yeah.
Going forward, from
Yep.
this point forward, there's no more excuse. Here
Get
you
out of
go.
jail free cards are plentiful at times, right?
Yeah. All right, here it is.
Yeah.
And there's been times where I've had to stop the meeting and say, hey, let's go over the operating. Look at the down number 4. What does that say?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oops.
Are we,
Yeah.
are we living that in this group right now? No.
Sure.
Okay. Course correction right now.
Yep. Awesome. That's so cool. Well, so I'm thinking like vulnerability is like one of the for sure essential skills that leaders need. It sounds like you'd agree. What other things do have you learned that are just absolutely mandatory for successful leadership that you feel comfortable sharing with our listeners?
Yeah, I think empathy is probably the biggest thing that I see missing in leaders. Really kind of remembering what it was like to be at that level.
Yeah.
And just having just empathy, caring about people. So I think that's huge. I think that leaders can set themselves apart by being really empathetic and caring about people. Another one is being a strategic visionary thinker versus a tactical thinker. My wife and I just went on vacation, and there was a couple of things, right? Where are we going? Where are we going? Okay, so that's the exciting part.
Yeah.
Where are we going? That's the vision. We got more excited about where we're going than what to do to get there.
Yeah.
Who cares, man? Yeah, you have to pack. You have to make sure that get your flights and your rental car, where you're going to stay and all that stuff that's tactical stuff.
Sure.
That's not exciting. That's not going to inspire me to go on vacation. In fact, it's probably going to be a preclusion because I got to do all this crap to get ready for it. No. But it's the where I'm going that was exciting for me and for my wife. And so that same thing in business and as a leader, casting the vision. Hey guys, this is where we're going. Not all the stuff we have to do to get there. That becomes just part of the deal.
Sure.
But casting the vision of where we're going and making them part of it, I think is huge as a leader, very essential.
And I think that's partially why some leaders struggle because, think about it from a, personality perspective, DISC, if you believe in that, there are people that are strategic thinkers. They're always thinking of the future. They're always thinking ahead. Like in your situation, all they care about is where are we going, right? Now, there are plenty of people that are built and designed, and neither one's right or wrong, but they're the ones that get that job done. They're the worker bees, so to speak, that love getting those things done. And so a tactical leader has to really have a challenge, in my mind. When I run into tactical leaders that are all they're looking at is today, I'm thinking, how do you tell them, how do you get them to look up? Some people aren't built that way, Mervyn. And so how do you think of your group or think of the people that you've come in contact with? It's like, how do you get them to open up a little bit and realize that, there's maybe some other ways to look at things?
Yeah, to be sure, I have both that are just kind of naturally in my group.
Sure.
Right? No two ways about it. But I will tell you that the Vistage model, and again, I'm drinking the Kool-Aid. I have drank the Kool-Aid. It's a phenomenal model. It puts in place strategic thinking. Learning how to be a strategy thinker is part of the model.
Sure.
So, and they challenge one another on it.
Yeah.
What do you mean you don't have time to take time and do strategic thinking? You don't have time not to. You can't afford not to do that. It's seriously, they challenge one another on that to the point where people schedule into their day. Hey, this is my time that I think strategically from 3 to 4:30 every day. That's my time.
Sure.
My staff knows that. It's a phenomenal thing because that's their time to cast the vision and think about where they're going and where they're leading their people. So some will have more challenges than others at that. I would tell you that everyone in my group is either doing it or learning how to be a better strategic thinker as a result of being part of our group.
Wow. And I don't want to miss your second one, which was empathy, because, my gosh, right now of all times, wouldn't it be helpful to understand a little bit more about accepting other people and trying to understand them and things like that?
Employee well-being. How are your people doing right now?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I love the book, People Over Profit. That's a great book because it talks about the importance of, treating your team, the way that they need to be treated. And when I wrote my book, Growing on Purpose, it was, it's divided into 2 chunks. Part of it is to improve the customer's experience, but the other part is to strengthen the team. And without a strong team, you will not have a positive experience for the customer. And it's just so weird that when you really break that down for leaders, they really kind of, at least a lot of them that I've worked with and talked with, their first propensity, Mervyn, is to blame other people. Man, if I had a better team, man, we'd rock, right? And it's just like, okay,
hold on, you're
here,
missing
okay?
it,
I
You
mean,
just
it's like,
missed an opportunity.
that's like that's like the sheep saying, man, if we had a different shepherd, I mean, man, if he took us into better pasture, I mean, there's all these,
Yeah, there's
blame
better
game
grass over
going
there.
on, right? And it's like, oh my gosh, you guys, everyone's in this together. And so to be empathetic, I really appreciate when somebody is empathetic of somebody else and they come alongside them and they really all of a sudden understand what they're going through. And I
Yeah,
remember my old job, we used to volunteer at different places, spend some work time to volunteer to do different things because I wanted somebody to be appreciative for whatever they had, how little it was, and to be able to give some of that to somebody else, just like your love for people.
yeah.
You know,
I mean,
Go ahead.
someone is always in a worse situation than you. I don't care what it is you're going through. You think it's the worst thing on earth.
Right.
If you start giving of yourself, you'll see that, man, I'll keep my stuff.
Yeah.
I'll keep whatever it is I'm going through, man, because
Yeah.
Jim over there, no way,
Yep.
man. Do I want any parts of what he's
Right.
experiencing right now?
Yeah. And so as from a leader's perspective, now more than ever, I think, if you're not checking in regularly with your team, I used to call when I had a team, I used to call them the internal customer. And then the customer that was out and about buying our stuff was the external customer.
Sure.
And when people really started to buy into that theory, it was like, man, I'm sitting next to my customer. Or I'm one office away from my customer, whatever that was. And it really can change the vision of a company. So do you guys in Vistage get into the customer service, customer experience team stuff? Do you get into that?
Sure, that comes up as members bring forth issues, and at the end of the day, that's what it always comes down to, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's the customer experience. So as they grow as leaders and they grow in empathy for the people who are actually executing the vision that they're casting, it always comes back to their end user, and that's that client, that customer. So
I had a client that said, man, if I didn't have customers, this would be an awesome company. It's like, oh my gosh, right? Wouldn't that be, right now it's like, okay, so, hey, I want to start to come in for a landing. I do have a question for you. If for somebody listening right now that is just like struggling, in their leadership or struggling in their business growth, and I know it's a real broad topic, but, if you had Mervyn's tip of the week for somebody, what's something right now that's applicable to you that you feel, somebody listening might really benefit from?
Besides join Vistage?
Okay, that's fine too. Go ahead.
No, I honestly do. I mean, for most of the companies that we will run into in Southeast Wisconsin here, that will qualify for Vistage membership, I don't see that. I mean, there's a very small percentage that wouldn't get value out of it.
Sure.
Again, it's not about me. It's about that group of individuals. So for me, just learning to lean on other people. Again, you talked about DISC and being a high D, and high Ds just get stuff done. Right. Make decisions. I can make a decision, and the next second I'm starting to execute on that decision.
Yep.
Learning to rely on other people and lean on other people is huge. Awesome. And so much more rewarding and safe. Safe. So if they cannot or will not join a Vistage group, get themselves some sort of advisory team that's outside of their company, that has nothing to do with their company. You mentioned you're a 20 group.
Yeah.
If there's a 20 group available in the industry and my member's not part of it, I'm going to be questioning why.
Sure.
Right? You need to be part of your 20 group.
Yeah.
But just getting different perspectives, because if you rely only on yourself and your knowledge, you're gonna find out you're gonna make a lot of mistakes,
Sure.
and some of those may be fatal.
Yeah.
So get safety. We've heard it, safety in numbers, right?
Yeah.
Safety and good counsel
Yeah.
from people that you trust.
That's awesome. So I, think that King Solomon, who wrote the book of Proverbs, had it really well said. He said, in the multitude of counselors, there's safety, and I think that at the end of the day, there's plenty of people that are lone rangers. They want to do it themselves. And I get it. And no one's here to stop you. I just think it's a whole lot easier when I look around and go, oh my gosh, like even before I realized that I said it, when I said, oh my gosh, I feel so much better. I'm not the only one. Just that connection right there. People want to be connected with other people that like share that same vision, share that same whatever. So, that's got to be such a come into that room and you're safe and you're going to learn. And
That's
you're
right.
probably going to get challenged, and you're probably going to be, why did I show up here? That'll enter in for a little bit. But at the end of the day, I got to believe there is a ton of value that people walk out with.
I heard a CEO say not too many months ago in a meeting, he said, this just before COVID, he said at a Vistage meeting, he said, I look forward to our monthly meetings because this is the only time of the month that I can be myself. No one's looking for anything from me.
Yep.
Right? I can be myself. I can let all my stuff out. I don't have to put on some sort of face or pretend like I'm this, that, or the other thing. I can be myself in this group. And I thought, what a testimonial that is.
Oh yeah, for
this
sure.
Is the place that they can be themselves and be vulnerable and say, hey, listen, I don't have all the answers. I don't have it all together.
Yep. Cool.
I need help.
That is so cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, hey, one last question for you before I let you go. So what's one thing that most people wouldn't know about you that you feel comfortable sharing?
One thing that most people wouldn't know about me. I am an ordained minister.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I didn't even know that. Look at that.
Oh. Yeah, I got ordained, gosh, 16 years ago, 16 years ago.
You can marry people then.
I can. I have.
Oh my gosh! So this could be like a side deal for us. All right. Well, it's good to know this. Thank you.
Yeah, and so it was just a natural outgrowth of where I was going with my faith and and a call and yeah. So I actually ran a church for a number of years.
All right, so you're officially my first minister on this podcast. So now I'm even more honored. You just rose up even more, Mervyn. So hey, before I let you go, share with the listeners the best way to get a hold of you, and if they want to learn more about you, if they want you to marry them, or if they want to learn more about Vistage, how do they get a hold of you?
Well, let's not talk about the marriage.
Okay.
Thing.
Well, I figured you had marriage classes. You could tie those into your Vistage. I mean, come on, we could run some disc assessments. We could make a deal out of this.
No, LinkedIn is probably the best way to connect with me. LinkedIn /Mervyn, MERVYN, Bird, BYRD. Then all my contact info is in there. I believe even my cell phone and email address is in there as well.
Awesome.
Best way to connect me, or if not, then just ping me on LinkedIn.
Awesome. Perfect. Well, Mervyn, this went by so quick. Thank you so much for letting me in a little bit, and I appreciate all that you share. I'm so excited to watch your Vistage group continue to grow, and then once that's filled, I'm assuming you're going to create a second group.
Another one.
That's how the plan is. That's fantastic. So
yep.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much again. And
thank you, Dave.
Hopefully soon we'll be able to get back out and about, and we'll be able to, gather for a meal somewhere without having to wear Tyvek suits and all that stuff. So, looking forward to that. But thank you again for hanging out with me.
Thanks, bud. Appreciate it.
Take care.
All right, you too.